All right, continuing on with these overlooked hidden gem videos from 2025. We got video 3 here of 4. I made a final decision that I will not be doing a list 5, only because I just feel like I have talked about so many films at this point. You guys have, you know, enough films to go off of here. So, all right, let's just jump right in. So, number 1 is a film that Kaylee and I caught very, very late into the year. I mean, I think this is one of the last videos we did together. And this is one that I really, really enjoyed. Now, this is much more on like the sci-fi drama side of things, but there's definitely horror elements in here. And, you know, the thriller is all it needs to have for me to put it on a list like this, since this is a horror thriller list for me. And this movie is called The Assessment. This stars Alicia Vikander and Elizabeth Olsen, and it is in a dystopian future where you have to get state sanctioned or government sanctioned pregnancies, you know, to be able to have a kid. And so they have a woman who comes to stay with them, and she has some very unique methods to how she conducts this assessment. So, yeah, this was a very uncomfortable movie. I thought that the performances are all excellent. I thought the writing was solid, and I thought that this was definitely one of the most unique and bizarre films of the year. And this is a movie that's currently streaming on Hulu. So definitely check that out if you missed it and you like these dystopian sci-fi movies. Something like the Caitlin Cronenberg's Humane, but in my opinion, much better. If you are into that kind of film, then you might have missed The Assessment. We sure as hell did. I was pretty surprised to come across it and see these big names, especially someone like Elizabeth Olsen, who I would have definitely noticed had she made a film like this. But somehow it slipped by me, and I'm very glad that I caught it at the end of the year. All right, number 2, a movie we saw in theaters, a movie that honestly I thought might have made my top 10 after I came out of the theater because I was so high on it. And this one is actually R-rated. I had said that this was PG-13 when we went and saw it, but I came to find out later that it's R, which actually makes sense now. And this is Brian Fuller's Dust Bunny, starring Mads Mikkelsen, that most people didn't see, didn't know existed, didn't support or talk about, and it hasn't hit VOD yet, I don't think, so it had a pretty limited run, so this is probably why you missed it. But yeah, I mean, if you like films like Where the Wild Things Are, kind of like dark fantasy, this felt like The Professional, written by Roald Dahl, directed by Tim Burton. That's what I had said when we reviewed this, and yeah, I just loved this. This was such a wildly imaginative, cool film about a girl who thinks a monster lives under her bed, or knows one does, and she goes and hires a monster killer, her neighbor, who is like, I'm no monster killer, and she's like, yes, you are. And they have this very unique, interesting kind of adopted daddy-daughter relationship. So, yeah, my kind of film through and through. If I made a top like 11 through 20 list, this probably would have fallen somewhere in that list, because I was so into this film. Next up, number 3, one that, yeah, I mean, once again, I see some people talking about these types of movies, but then again, you don't see many, so I always want to bring these types of films that are lower budgeted films that just get overlooked throughout the year, and give them some attention. And this one is called Bloody Axe Wound, and this is a meta horror film that is about a girl whose dad is a serial killer, and he owns this like video store, and they like, I don't really exactly understand how this works, and I don't think you're supposed to overthink it, but essentially they film their own movies, and they are like their own Jason Voorhees and Freddy Kruegers and whatnot. And yeah, they are like, he's trying to keep the legacy alive through her, and of course she like has you know objections to this, and is really liking people in town and doesn't want to kill them. This is a really good meta horror comedy that I think definitely deserves a lot more attention than it got. I was not expecting to like this as much as I did. I'm not typically into these types of films, but if you like something like Tragedy Girls, I would say this one's definitely for you. All right, number 4, one that we got to see in theaters. This got a very limited release, but should be on VOD by now. And this is Parvolos, the Children of the Apocalypse. This was a very, very well made zombie film. Very light on the zombie action, much more of like a drama. Three young brothers of varying ages living kind of out in the middle of nowhere in a house with a secret in the basement, and they're just trying to keep alive. Of course, you can guess what is in the basement. I don't think that that's really all that big of a surprise. We've seen enough of these movies at this point, but this one was just really well acted, really well shot, and was definitely an overlooked zombie film from this year. So if you are into zombie dramas, much like the We Bury the Dead that just recently came out in 2026 with Daisy Ridley, I would definitely also check out Parvolos. So you can hopefully find that. It has to be released by now. I can't imagine it's not, because we saw this like probably 6 months ago or more. All right, number 5. What's funny here is I have 3 films crossed out that I had here. Kaylee mentioned one. The other one got mentioned in another thing, and then the other one got mentioned in another. I just kept crossing off names. And so finally, I had to throw in a 4th film here. As I said, this is the benefit of having watched so many movies last year. I was just like, okay, I need another one. Let me go to the list. And I looked through it, and I'm like, yeah, okay, this is a really cool film. I wish I would have put that on here, and I get to now. This is one almost no one saw. I completely skipped past it. I accidentally came across this film. This movie's called Control Freak, starring Kelly Marie Tran. This is on Hulu. We were watching the X-Files, and I saw the kid in one of the episodes we were watching, and I was like, hey, isn't that the kid from Halloween 2018? So I looked it up, and I looked at his name to check if it was him, and it was him. But as I was scanning through it, I saw a movie called Control Freak on Hulu from 2025 that was a horror film, and I was like, what the hell is this? And I clicked on it, and I was like, what? So I went to Hulu, and I watched it, and I was like, oh, I really liked this movie a lot. I know, I will say this, though. This probably should have landed on the films that I really enjoyed that everyone hated, because like everyone I follow on Letterboxd who did see this movie, which wasn't a lot of people, they all gave it like 2 stars. And then the rating for this is pretty low all around. Yeah, I thought this was a really cool like body horror film that gets under your skin, because she is this like self-help guru type of chick, and she has this itch under her skin that she can't seem to scratch out, and she just keeps picking at it, and it just gets more and more disgusting and intense throughout the film. Yeah, I really liked this movie. I was pretty surprised by the reaction, but thinking back about the film, it doesn't shock me that this is one of those films that I'm like, I don't get it. I thought this was really cool. So if this sounds up your alley at all, give it a try. But if you're turned off to it, starring Kelly Marie Tran from The Last Jedi, and it being like a female empowering type of body horror film, then yeah, you can skip it. But I dug it, and I thought I wanted to bring it up. All right, so next up, I'm going to talk about 2 action horror films. We don't get to talk enough about those on here, and I love my action pretty much as I love my horror. So if you put them both together, you're gonna have me on board as long as it's, of course, well done. This next one feels kind of like an Alien or Predator film, more on the side of the Predator, which is a movie called Osiris, which is a bunch of military. I don't know if they're Marines or Army or whatever they are. They're in the middle of a fight against opposing soldiers, and they get abducted by aliens, and they're put on this ship with these big buff, you know, monstrous aliens, and they're just having a big ass shootout with them on their ship, trying to figure out how the hell to get back to Earth. So yeah, man, I just had a really good time with this. This is a pretty repetitive film, and it is lower budgeted, but I was pretty surprised by the look of the creatures. I thought that the suits and the practical effects on them were actually really impressive. And if you're someone who really likes kind of like Predator knockoff films, this was a really cool one from this year that I never saw a single person mention, and I happened to cross it, and I was like, hell yeah, dude, Osiris, this is my shit here. Another very well done action film that has horror elements is an Asian one. I think it's Japanese. Can't remember which Asian country it is, but I think it's Japanese. This is called Ghost Killer, and there's this like hitman who ends up getting killed, and then through a certain means, he gets transplanted into the body of this young girl who stumbles across something, which is how she kind of becomes possessed by him, but more haunted by him. So it's like a haunting possession thing, where it's like kind of this unlikely odd couple duo. And she's like a college student, and of course he's like a trained killer, and they're really combating with one another. Like, they don't want anything to do with one another, but they're kind of stuck and tethered together because of this curse. And it's like revealed to them throughout, educating themselves, looking into this stuff, that he needs to get his vengeance. He needs to take care of his unfinished business, and if he can do that, then she can be free of him. So she has to let him take control of her, and when she does, he can take over her body and kick some ass. The action stuff in this was filmed extremely well. If you're a big martial arts fan and you like pretty brutal fight scenes, this has some really, really good choreography, and framing and camera work. So as far as the horror stuff goes, it's very, very light. It's just literally he's a ghost and he's haunting in her, but it's much more on like the comedic side of things. But the drama's there as well. I just, as a big fan of action movies, fighting movies, I really liked how this was shot, and I thought the fight scenes were quite good. So definitely got completely overlooked. All right. Next up, we got a Western horror, which actually did get a theater release, and I was going to see it in theaters, and I'm kind of bummed that I didn't get to go watch it in theaters, but the trailer was very iffy for me. The only thing that had me like really excited for this was Guy Pearce, and this is a movie called Killing Faith. Now, Guy Pearce has made all sorts of different films, ranging from like really ultra low budget to like super high budget. The guy rules in everything. I don't care what kind of crappy movie he might make. He's always the shining light in the film. He also made another action or Western horror film with Dakota Fanning called Brimstone from I think 2016. That's awesome. And that's what kind of had me excited. This also has Bill Pullman in it, and I like seeing him as well. But Western horror, you don't get a lot of it, right? The Burrowers, you don't get much in the way of Western horrors. It's a bummer that it doesn't exist more. I'd love to see more. Bone Tomahawk, obviously, is one of the shining examples of awesome, very intense, violent Western horror. But yeah, Killing Faith. This was a really cool film that has actually some pretty gnarly shit in it. This is about a little girl who has the ability to kill anything she touches, almost like, Midas's touch, where he turns everything to gold. Well, when she touches anything with her bare hands, it dies. And they're trying to take her across the plains. This girl hires Guy Pearce's character to get them safe passage, and they run into uh, you know, a whole group of random individuals along the way. Yeah, this was actually surprisingly good, but it is low budget, and people need to temper their expectations with films like this, right? You have to be a fan of this type of film. Like, typically, there's a lot of people who are like mainstream, big budget, perfect production value people, and like my father, who are just like anything that doesn't meet that criteria is instantly garbage to them. They just are immediately out like, no, I'm not watching this shit. This is not polished. This isn't perfect. Like, I need it to look like it's high end. It's not these types of films, right? A good amount of these will be that kind of style of filmmaking, but I just really appreciate the shit out of these movies, because as a wannabe independent filmmaker myself, I just see the diamonds in the rough. I see the rough edges and everything, but man, I can really see the the you know the shine coming from within. So I thought this one was very, very cool. All right, next up, number 9, we have a found footage film. Geez, man, there is not many found footage films this year. I was really noticing it as I was going through, being like, man, we only maybe saw 10 the whole damn year, and I think I only liked 5 of them. And this one is from Andrew Bowser, who is Onyx the Fortuitous, which he made an awesome film a couple years ago called Onyx the Fortuitous and the Talisman of Lost Souls. Is that what that was called? Something like that. Which was a surprisingly good movie that I was genuinely shocked by when we watched it, because I was expecting it to be stupid, and it just was not expecting it to have some of the best like practical creature effects of the year. That's for damn sure. So when I saw that he dropped a new found footage film, I was like, oh hell yeah, dude! I want to see what this guy can do without Onyx, right? Without his go-to character that he's created. And the Decedent. The Decedent is a very cool found footage film from last year that didn't get a lot of attention, and it's about a morgue worker who is looking into this body that she's supposed to be making up, um, restoring the face, and she realizes that this is the work of a killer, and yeah, some things start to happen as she's around the body. Very like Autopsy of Jane Doe, sort of, but found footage, and yeah, I thought this had some really, really intense stuff in it. There's a scene in this that was actually kind of hard to watch. It was really intense and fucked up, and I was like, damn, I was not expecting something this hardcore from this film. I thought the performance from our lead was good. Andrew himself plays a different character in this than the typical Onyx that I'm used to seeing him as. He's good in it. Everyone's good in it. I think this is a very well-rounded found footage film, one of the best of the year. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of competition, but it would be in my top 3 found footage films of the year for sure. I really enjoyed the hell out of this. So definitely, if for some reason you're a found footage fan and you skipped or missed The Decedent, make sure that you swing back around and knock it off, because it's a good one. All right, lastly here, number 10. This is definitely more on like the action thriller side of things. But this is a movie called Steppenwolf. Um, I reviewed this a few months ago. This is in a different language, so it is subtitled, and it's about this kind of like former cop who's in this almost Mad Max world, from what it feels, and this woman who is completely gone. Like her mind is shot. She can't function. All she wants is she wants her kid back. And our anti-hero here, that's taking her through this hellscape of a world to try to get her kid back, does not give a shit about anything. Not her, not himself, not anyone he's killing. But he's kind of just on a mission because she offers him money. And, at any moment, he's totally fine with her dying. He tries killing her a few times. Like, he's just like, I don't care about anything. So you have to kind of get in lockstep with this like vibe, because this is not like something you're going to normally watch, where you have heroes and villains and you got someone to root for and you got morality. And like, this movie is completely devoid of like any semblance of morality or caring or empathy or anything. These characters, they have their missions and they don't really care about human life or anything else. They're just, she's out to get her kid, and she's so mentally wrecked that all she does is she just kind of sits there and stares off and says the same phrases over and over, and just kind of like laughs maniacally once in a while. It it is a very unique film that felt like nothing else I watched this year. And yeah, I mean, also the iconic imagery of the heart rimmed glasses that our main character wears here, that you'll see on the poster. That's some iconic imagery for me for the year for sure. But yeah, very Mad Max, but smaller budgeted, and a cool one. Definitely one no one talked about. And some people, I did, when I reviewed this, I had a couple people in the comments like, this is my top 10, this is my favorite film of the year, whatever. So some of the people who saw it, which is very few unfortunately, were in love with it and were big on it. But for the most part, I saw this not appear on a single list anywhere, horror or otherwise. So and even like an overlooked or like, honorable mention or anything, I didn't see any reviews for this film, not one, besides my own. So there you go. 10 overlooked hidden gem horror thrillers from 2025, part 3. I'll see you in the last video, part 4, coming soon. Adios.